stop. Before you scroll away, understand this: God is speaking directly to you today. This message isn't for everyone. It's for the chosen few who are ready to receive a massive blessing right now. Imagine this: financial freedom, a life-changing miracle, and peace beyond understanding are all within your reach. But only if you listen until the very end. Have you ever wondered why your prayers for financial relief haven't been answered? What if I told you that today could be the moment everything changes? Yes, today. But here's the shocking truth. Most people will hear this message and ignore it, walking away from the miracle they've been begging for. Don't let that be you. You've been chosen to hear this for a reason. That nagging feeling you've had, the struggles that won't seem to end, it all comes down to this moment. But there's a catch. Not everyone will receive what's being offered. In fact, only a handful of people will grab onto this blessing before it slips away. The question is, will you be one of them? Time is running out, and opportunities like this don't come around every day. God has set the stage, but He's waiting for you to take action. What if your financial breakthrough is just one decision away? One step of faith could unlock the floodgates of blessings. So, are you going to claim what's already been prepared for you, or let it pass by? Remember, only a few will have the courage to believe and act. Are you one of them? The window is closing fast. If you don't act now, you might miss out on the very miracle you've been praying for. This isn't just a message, it's your moment of destiny. Don't reject it. There are moments in life when everything feels out of place. Financial worries and daily struggles begin to weigh heavy, and desperation can easily take over. It's in these very moments that we must listen closely because the divine is speaking. God has a way of arranging things, placing blessings right in front of us, but they can be missed if we're not paying attention. Imagine standing on the edge of a breakthrough, but one moment of distraction could cause you to miss it all. Think about this. How many times have you been so focused on your financial troubles that you failed to see the blessing right in front of you? God doesn't always deliver financial relief in a package we expect. Sometimes, it's hidden in opportunities or encounters that seem small but hold the key to unlocking a bigger financial miracle. It could be a conversation with a stranger, a job offer, or even a chance to help someone. The truth is, God's blessings often come in disguise, and it's up to us to recognize them. The challenge is that many of us expect the blessings to come in a grand, obvious way, especially when it comes to financial help. We think it will arrive as a large sum of money, a promotion, or a windfall. However, God works in ways we can't always predict. He might send a blessing through an opportunity that doesn't look like much at first glance. Maybe it's a side project that leads to financial peace, or a small act of kindness that opens doors you never imagined. Financial miracles are often born from what looks insignificant. When you're in tune with God's voice, you'll start to notice these blessings more clearly. The key is to remain open and prepared for anything. This is where faith steps in. Without a strong belief that God is moving in your life, it becomes easy to overlook these moments. Have you ever experienced a time when you were struggling financially, only to have an unexpected solution show up just in time? That's the kind of blessing we're talking about, the one that catches you off guard, but reminds you that God is always in control. Another crucial part of receiving God's blessings is positioning yourself to hear Him. That might mean spending time in prayer, meditating on His Word, or simply quieting your mind amidst life's chaos. Sometimes, the noise of daily life blocks us from hearing God's direction. If you find yourself constantly overwhelmed by financial concerns, it might be a sign that you need to pause and listen more closely to what He's saying. In those quiet moments, God often reveals the steps that lead to financial freedom and peace. It's also important to remember that blessings are not always immediate. Just because you don't see the financial relief right now doesn't mean it isn't on its way. God works on His own timeline, and part of our journey is learning to trust in that process. It's like planting a seed. You don't expect the plant to grow overnight, but you trust that with time, care, and patience it will. Financial blessings work the same way. They may take time to manifest, but when they do, they bring more than you expected. But here's the tricky part. We live in a world that teaches us to chase quick fixes, especially when it comes to money. We want immediate solutions to financial stress, but God's way is different. He uses time, growth, and patience to prepare us for the blessings that are coming. If you rush the process, you might miss out on the fullness of what He has in store for you. Patience is often the bridge between where you are now and the financial miracle that's on its way. There are countless examples of people who, when they chose to listen and wait, received blessings that far exceeded their expectations. Maybe you've heard stories of individuals who were on the verge of giving up financially, only to experience a sudden breakthrough. These aren't just coincidences. They are testimonies to the power of faith and God's timing. When you trust in His process, miracles happen, and your financial situation can change overnight. If you're currently facing financial difficulties, this message is for you. You are not forgotten, and your financial blessing is closer than you think. But here's the thing, you must be ready for it. God's blessings require you to be in the right place, mentally, spiritually, and even physically. It might mean making a change in your life, adjusting your mindset, or being open to new opportunities. Whatever it is, trust that God is guiding you toward that financial breakthrough. The most important thing you can do right now is prepare. Prepare your heart, your mind, and your spirit to receive what God has in store. Financial blessings don't just fall into the laps of those who are unprepared. They come to those who have aligned themselves with God's will and are ready to handle the responsibility that comes with abundance. So, ask yourself, are you ready for the financial miracle God has for you? If not, it's time to start preparing. In this preparation, there's another key element: gratitude. Before you even see the financial blessing, begin to thank God for it. This act of faith shows that you trust in His provision, even if it hasn't arrived yet. Gratitude has a way of opening the door for blessings to flow. It shifts your focus from what you lack to what God is preparing to give you. And often, that shift in mindset is the final piece that allows the financial miracle to manifest. Another thing to consider is how you handle the blessings when they arrive. Financial relief is a gift from God, but it also comes with responsibility. What you do with that blessing matters. Are you ready to use it wisely, or will you let it slip through your fingers? God entrusts us with financial blessings, and it's up to us to be good stewards of what He provides. This means planning, managing, and even sharing that blessing in ways that honor God. God's blessings are not just for your benefit. They are meant to flow through you to others. God often works in ways that are hidden from the world. When blessings start to manifest in your life, especially financial blessings, there's wisdom in keeping them private. There's a reason why the Bible speaks about not letting your left hand know what your right hand is doing. It's because the world is filled with people who may not always have the best intentions for you. The more people know about your financial blessings, the more vulnerable you become to envy, judgment, or even sabotage. Imagine this. You've just received a financial breakthrough. Perhaps it was a new job, an unexpected windfall, or a business opportunity that began to thrive. Naturally, you might feel the urge to share this good news with everyone. But in doing so, you could attract the wrong kind of attention. Not everyone is ready to celebrate your success, and some might even attempt to undermine it. That's why it's crucial to keep certain blessings between you and God until the right moment. There's also a spiritual element to keeping your blessings private. When you share too early, you might be giving room for doubt and negativity to creep in. People may question the legitimacy of your financial blessing or cast doubt on how long it will last. Their words, even if unintentionally, can create an atmosphere that hinders the continuation of that blessing. Sometimes, the best way to protect what God has given you is to remain silent and let the fruits of the blessing speak for themselves over time. Another thing to consider is the peace that comes with keeping things private. There's something special about enjoying a financial blessing without the pressure of external opinions. When no one knows what's happening in your financial life, you're free from the expectations and judgments of others. You can take your time, be wise with your decisions, and allow God to guide you in how to manage this blessing without interference. It's a form of spiritual protection, and it keeps your heart focused on what truly matters. Of course, this doesn't mean you should never share your blessings. But timing is everything. There's a time to reveal and a time to withhold. For example, if you've been blessed with a financial increase, maybe that's a sign to start helping others quietly, without the need for public recognition. This is where true generosity begins. It's not about flaunting what you have, but about using your financial blessings in ways that honor God and bless others without drawing unnecessary attention. Think of it like a seed. When you plant a seed, it takes time to grow under the surface before it breaks through the soil. If you were to dig it up too soon to show others, you would disrupt its growth. Similarly, your financial blessings need time to develop before they can be shared. Let them grow in private, nurtured by your gratitude and faith, until they are strong enough to be revealed. Rushing the process can lead to the loss of the very blessing you were given. Keeping your financial blessings secret also helps you stay humble. The temptation to boast about what God has done is strong, but humility is what keeps the blessing flowing. When you keep things between you and God, you're reminded that it's His hand at work, not yours. The financial relief or miracle you've experienced is a testament to God's goodness, and He is the one who deserves the glory. By remaining quiet, you let your actions speak louder than your words. Challenges are an inevitable part of life. Whether they come in the form of financial struggles, personal conflicts, or unexpected setbacks, they have a way of testing our faith. But here's the thing. Challenges are not a sign that God has abandoned you. Quite the opposite. Every challenge is an opportunity for God to show His power and presence in your life. It's in the most difficult moments that God works behind the scenes, orchestrating a plan far greater than what we can see. Have you ever faced a situation where everything seemed to be falling apart? Maybe the bills were piling up, and there was no sign of relief in sight. It's easy to feel like you're alone in those moments, but God is always there, even when you can't feel His presence. Sometimes, He allows financial struggles to refine us, to mold our character, and to prepare us for the blessings that are coming. The challenges are part of the process. The Bible is full of stories where God's presence is most powerful during times of adversity. Think of Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his own brothers. His journey was filled with betrayal, false accusations, and imprisonment, but God never left his side. Joseph's challenges were not a punishment but a preparation for the great blessing that awaited him. Through every trial, God was positioning him for a higher purpose. Financial struggles can often feel overwhelming, but they are not without purpose. God uses these moments to teach us patience, faith, and dependence on Him. Sometimes, The only way to truly experience a financial miracle is by walking through the valley first. It's in those moments of lack that we learn to trust God's provision. And when the breakthrough finally comes, it's all the more meaningful because we know it was God who brought us through. But how do we remain hopeful when everything around us seems to be going wrong? It starts with remembering that God is always in control. No matter how chaotic life gets, He is never surprised by our circumstances. Every financial challenge, every roadblock, and every disappointment is part of His divine plan. While it may not make sense in the moment, God is always working for your good, even when you can't see it. Another thing to keep in mind is that God often uses challenges to redirect us. When we face financial difficulties, it can be a sign that God is trying to shift us in a new direction. Perhaps He's leading you to a new career path, encouraging you to start a business, or teaching you to manage your resources more wisely. Challenges have a way of pushing us out of our comfort zones and into the places where God's blessings await. It's important to understand that challenges don't mean failure. Society often teaches us that if we're struggling financially, we've done something wrong. But God doesn't see it that way. In His eyes, challenges are not failures but opportunities for growth. It's not about how much money you have or how successful you appear to be. It's about how you respond to the challenges you face. Do you trust God to see you through, or do you let fear and doubt take over? When you choose to trust God in the middle of financial struggles, something powerful happens. Your perspective shifts. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, you begin to see them as stepping stones to something greater. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for God to show His faithfulness. And as you walk through those challenges with faith, you become stronger, more resilient, and better prepared for the blessings that are coming. Consider this. What if the financial struggles you're facing right now are the very thing God is using to position you for a breakthrough? It's easy to lose hope when the bills are piling up and there seems to be no end in sight. But what if this is all part of God's plan to teach you something valuable, to prepare you for something greater? Financial miracles often come on the other side of the storm. It's in the storm that our faith is tested and strengthened. Think of the story of Jesus calming the storm. The disciples were terrified, thinking they were going to drown. But Jesus was there, in the boat with them, the whole time. He wasn't worried about the storm because He knew He had control over it. In the same way, God is with you in your financial storms. He's not panicked or surprised by your situation. He already has the solution. When you're in the middle of a financial challenge, it's easy to feel like things will never get better. But remember, God is not limited by the same constraints we are. What seems impossible to us is nothing for Him. He can provide financial relief in ways we never expected, and often, that relief comes just when we need it most. The key is to keep trusting Him, even when it doesn't make sense. Another way to experience God's presence in your challenges is through prayer. When you're struggling financially, it's easy to focus on the problem and forget to bring it to God. But prayer is a powerful tool that connects you to God's presence. It's in those moments of prayer that you can release your worries and anxieties and allow God to give you peace. He may not solve the problem immediately, but He will give you the strength to endure it. Financial struggles can be isolating, but you're never truly alone. God's presence is with you in every challenge, guiding you, strengthening you, and preparing you for the breakthrough that's coming. He sees your struggles, hears your prayers, and knows your needs. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating the solution that you've been waiting for. Your financial blessing is on the horizon. In the meantime, take heart in knowing that challenges don't last forever. Just as the storm eventually passes, so too will your financial difficulties. The important thing is to keep your eyes on God, knowing that He is with you every step of the way. And when the storm does pass, you'll look back and see how God's presence carried you through, and the blessing will be even sweeter because of the challenges you overcame. Life can often feel like a storm, unpredictable and chaotic, much like the story of Jesus calming the sea. The disciples were terrified, believing they were about to perish, but Jesus slept peacefully. It's a powerful reminder of what it means to have faith in the middle of uncertainty. Life's financial struggles, family pressures, and personal doubts can make us feel like we're drowning. But the lesson here is that peace comes not from the absence of storms, but from trusting the one who controls them. Surrendering to God doesn't mean giving up or admitting defeat. It means releasing control and trusting that God's plan is better than anything we could imagine. When facing financial struggles, our instinct is often to tighten our grip, try to solve everything on our own, and stress over every detail. But faith calls us to surrender those worries to God. It's in that moment of surrender that we experience peace, even if the storm is still raging around us. Think about a time when you were overwhelmed by financial worries. Maybe you felt like you had to figure everything out by yourself. The bills were piling up, the stress was unbearable, and you didn't see a way out. Now, imagine how different things could have been if you had chosen to surrender those worries to God from the start. Instead of letting anxiety control you, faith could have given you the strength to face those challenges with confidence, knowing that God was in control. Faith isn't just about believing that God can change your situation. It's about trusting that He will, in His timing. That can be one of the hardest parts of surrendering. We want results now, especially when it comes to financial relief. But surrendering means accepting that God's timeline might not match our own. It's understanding that even in the delay, God is working for our good, preparing something greater than we can see in the moment. One practical way to practice surrender is through prayer. When financial stress takes over, instead of letting it consume you, take it to God. Tell Him your worries, your fears, and your frustrations. In that act of surrender, you're releasing control, trusting that He will provide. Prayer isn't just about asking for what you need. It's about acknowledging that God is the provider, and trusting Him to take care of the rest. Surrendering to God doesn't mean being passive. It means being active in your faith. You'll find that God's peace becomes a constant presence in your life. Even when financial struggles arise, you'll be able to face them with confidence, knowing that God has already gone before you. The storm may still rage, but your faith will be the anchor that holds you steady. And in time, you'll see that surrendering wasn't about giving up, but about gaining something far greater: God's perfect provision. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts you can embrace in your spiritual journey. It's not just about letting others off the hook. It's about liberating your own heart from the weight of anger, resentment, and bitterness. When you hold on to grudges, it's like carrying a heavy burden that slowly wears you down. God calls us to forgive, not only for the benefit of others, but for the freedom it brings to our own souls. Through forgiveness, we experience true liberation. Think about someone who has wronged you. Maybe it was a betrayal from a friend, a family member, or even a financial disagreement that left you feeling hurt. Holding on to that pain only deepens the wound. It's natural to want justice, but holding on to bitterness won't bring the relief you seek. True peace comes from releasing that person and the situation to God. Forgiveness is a powerful act of faith, trusting that God will handle the justice while you focus on healing. Financial disagreements are a common source of conflict. Money can create rifts between even the closest of relationships. Whether it's a loan that wasn't repaid or an unfair business deal, these situations can leave deep scars. But forgiveness in these instances doesn't mean ignoring what happened or excusing the behavior. It means choosing to let go of the need for revenge or repayment. By forgiving, you're freeing yourself from the emotional chains that keep you tied to the past. One of the hardest aspects of forgiveness is the idea that it feels like we're letting the other person win. But here's the truth: forgiveness is not about them, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your peace, your joy, and your freedom. When you forgive, you're taking back control of your emotional well-being. You're no longer allowing the actions of others to dictate your happiness. This is the true liberation that comes with forgiveness. It's like cutting the ties that have been holding you back from fully experiencing the blessings God has in store for you. The act of forgiving doesn't change the past, but it transforms your future. It allows you to move forward without the weight of past hurts dragging you down. And when you forgive, you make room for God's healing to take place in your heart, which opens the door to new blessings, including financial breakthroughs. It's also important to recognize that forgiveness is a process. It doesn't always happen overnight. You might need to forgive someone repeatedly, each time releasing a little more of the hurt until you're finally free. That's okay. God understands the depth of your pain, and He walks with you through every step of the forgiveness process. The key is to keep moving forward, even if it's a little at a time. Each step brings you closer to the liberation God wants for you. Financial struggles often come with feelings of guilt, shame, or regret. Maybe you made a bad investment, mismanaged your money, or found yourself in debt. Forgiveness also extends to yourself. You can't move forward if you're constantly beating yourself up over past mistakes. God's grace is bigger than your financial errors, and He offers forgiveness to you as well. Accepting that forgiveness allows you to start fresh, with a renewed mindset and the confidence that God will provide for your future. When you forgive, you're not just releasing the person who hurt you, you're releasing yourself from the past. You're no longer defined by what happened to you, but by how you choose to respond. Forgiveness is an act of strength, not weakness. It takes courage to forgive, especially when the wound is deep. But with every act of forgiveness, you become stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with the peace that God desires for your life. A practical way to begin the process of forgiveness is through prayer. Ask God to help you release the hurt and anger you're holding on to. Pray for the person who wronged you, even if it feels difficult. Over time, you'll notice your heart softening and the weight of bitterness lifting. It might not happen all at once, but with God's help, you'll experience the freedom that forgiveness brings. And as you let go, you'll find that peace replaces the pain. Forgiveness doesn't mean you'll forget what happened, but it does mean you'll no longer let it control you. The memories may still be there, but the pain will no longer have power over your life. Instead, you'll be free to focus on the future that God has planned for you, a future filled with peace, joy, and financial abundance. This is the liberation that comes when you fully embrace the power of forgiveness. The freedom that comes with forgiveness is a gift that only God can provide. When you let go of the past and forgive, you're opening the door for God's healing and blessing. You're inviting Him to work in your life in ways you never thought possible. And as you walk in that freedom, you'll experience the peace that surpasses all understanding. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door to true liberation. Generosity is a reflection of the heart. When we give, it's not just about the amount or the act itself, it's about the spirit behind it. True generosity comes from a heart that has been shaped by God, one that recognizes the blessings it has received and seeks to pass those blessings on to others. Financial giving is often the first thing we think of when discussing generosity, but it goes far beyond that. It's about giving of your time, your love, your support, and your compassion. Generosity also has the power to bring joy, both to the giver and the receiver. There's a deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you've made a positive difference in someone's life, whether through financial support, a kind word, or simply being there when they needed help. And often, the joy you experience as the giver is even greater than the joy of the one receiving. It's a reminder that we are blessed to be a blessing. In a world that often values holding onto wealth and accumulating more, the Bible teaches a countercultural lesson. It is more blessed to give than to receive. When you live with open hands, ready to give generously, you position yourself to receive even more from God. Financial blessings are not meant to be hoarded but shared. The more we give, the more we open ourselves up to God's continued provision. It's a cycle of giving and receiving that brings life and abundance. Generosity isn't just about giving when you have plenty, it's about giving even in times of need. Some of the most generous people are those who have the least, yet they give out of their hearts, trusting that God will provide for them. It's this kind of faith-driven generosity that truly pleases God. He sees the heart behind the gift, and He multiplies it. Just like the widow's offering in the Bible, your small act of generosity, given in faith, can have a huge impact. Think about the ways you can practice generosity in your own life. Maybe it's giving financially to someone in need or supporting a cause you believe in. But it can also be as simple as offering your time to listen to a friend, sharing your skills with someone who needs help, or offering encouragement to someone who is struggling. Generosity takes many forms, and each one has the potential to bring God's light into the world. Generosity also builds stronger communities. When we share our resources, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual, we create a sense of unity and support. Instead of everyone fending for themselves, we begin to care for one another in meaningful ways. Financially, this could mean helping a neighbor in need, supporting a local business, or contributing to a charitable organization. Spiritually, it could mean praying for someone or offering them guidance in a difficult time. Generosity connects us on a deeper level. Another powerful aspect of generosity is that it breaks the hold of greed and selfishness. The more you give, the less attached you become to material things. Instead of focusing on accumulating wealth or possessions, you begin to see the value in giving them away. This shift in mindset brings freedom, because you no longer find your identity or security in your financial status. Your trust is in God's provision, and that allows you to live with a sense of peace and purpose. Generosity also opens the door to financial blessings. It might seem counterintuitive, but when you give, you create space for God to bless you even more. This doesn't mean you should give with the expectation of getting something in return, but it's a principle that has been proven time and time again. God honors those who give with a pure heart, and He often rewards them in ways they never expected. The more you give, the more God provides. There are countless stories of people who experienced financial miracles after choosing to give generously, even when it didn't make sense. Maybe you've heard of someone who gave their last dollar to help someone in need, only to receive an unexpected financial blessing shortly after. These stories aren't just coincidences. They are evidence of God's promise that when we give, He gives back to us, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Generosity also strengthens your faith. When you give, especially in times of financial uncertainty, you're making a statement, I trust God to provide for me. It's a way of saying that your hope is not in your bank account, but in the God who owns it all. This kind of faith is what pleases God. It's an act of worship, showing that you believe in His ability to meet your needs, even when the numbers don't add up. As you practice generosity, you'll begin to see the impact it has not only on others but on your own heart. Your perspective shifts from scarcity to abundance. Instead of worrying about having enough, you start to recognize just how much you've already been blessed. And as you give, you'll notice that God continues to pour more into your life, whether through financial blessings, opportunities, or simply a deep sense of contentment and peace. When you're in the midst of financial difficulties, it's easy to feel alone. You might wonder, does God even see what I'm going through? The answer is a resounding yes. God is fully aware of every detail of your financial situation, and He's already working on a solution. But part of overcoming these struggles is learning to trust Him completely, even when the numbers don't make sense. Faith is the key that unlocks God's provision, but it requires patience and a deep trust in His timing. Faith during financial hardship can feel like walking in the dark, but that's where faith shines brightest. It's not about seeing the solution, it's about believing that God already has one. Think of the Israelites wandering in the wilderness. They didn't know where their next meal would come from, but God provided manna each day. He didn't give them more than they needed, but He gave them enough for each day. In the same way, God may not solve all your financial problems at once, but He will give you what you need for today. One of the most important lessons to learn during financial struggles is the difference between need and want. Faith teaches us to trust that God will meet our needs, even if it's not in the way we expect. It's easy to pray for financial abundance, but sometimes God uses seasons of lack to teach us dependence on Him. When you focus on your needs rather than your wants, you begin to see how God is already providing in ways you may have overlooked. As you've learned today, the blessings God has in store for you aren't just distant dreams, they're real and within your reach. But here's the thing, knowledge alone isn't enough. It's time to put what you've learned into action. Ask yourself, are you ready to take the steps of faith required to unlock the financial freedom, peace, and miracles that God has prepared for you? Or will you continue to stand on the sidelines, letting opportunities pass you by? What would your life look like if you fully trusted in God's provision? If you truly believed that your financial struggles, your moments of doubt, and even your failures are part of a divine plan to bring you into a season of abundance? These aren't just empty promises, they're realities that await those who are willing to take action and trust in God's timing. Now is your chance to change your life. Will you let fear hold you back, or will you step forward in faith? Will you continue to worry about your financial situation, or will you surrender it to God, knowing that He has the power to bring breakthroughs in ways you never imagined? These are the decisions that can shape your future, and they're in your hands right now. If this message resonated with you, then don't stop here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss out on more life-changing teachings. Every lesson brings you closer to the breakthrough you've been waiting for. God is still speaking, and the next message could be the one that transforms everything for you. Remember, few will have the faith to act, but those who do will experience the fullness of God's blessings. Will you be one of them? The time to act is now. Don't miss out on what God has prepared for you. Hit that subscribe button and stay connected so you can continue to walk in His provision and guidance.